Welcome to the deep dive. You know, if you've ever stood in front of a shelf of language programs, Assimil, Pimsleur, Michel Thomas, that feeling of just being paralyzed by choice.
hmm The goal is simple, right? I want to learn French. But the path to get there is anything but clear.
And that's exactly where we come in. We've gone through the material you've given us, expert reviews, deep dives on learner forums, critiques of all these classic courses.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to give you a really informed perspective on what self-study programs work, the pronunciation hacks you need to know right now, and a solid list of free resources that people often overlook.
Exactly. We're trying to cut through all that marketing noise to find out what actually works for a self-learner. So we're hitting three areas. First, a real comparison of the big learning methods.
Then the mechanics, those few French sounds and rhythms that make a huge difference immediately.
And finally, a sort of gold mine of free academic and government resources that are just waiting for you online.
Okay, so let's set the stage. With self-study French, you're looking at a pretty fundamental conflict in philosophy.
Right.
Do you start speaking right away to build that confidence, or do you spend, maybe months just listening, absorbing, before you even try to say anything?
Let's start with one side of that, the,
Yeah.
the structural purists. You have the Foreign Service Institute course, the FSI.
Oh, the gold standard?
Yeah, exactly. Our sources describe it, and I love this phrase, as the old grinded-out drill method from the
Sure.
60s. It's very structured, very intense.
A great course, they say. But for the serious student, it demands a huge, almost academic level of commitment.
It really does.
Yeah.
And then you've got Assimil, which is kind of the champion of that understand first camp.
Right. It's so often recommended for self-study. Their whole method is, it's kind of radical in its simplicity. You listen to tons of short dialogues, maybe 100 of them.
And crucially, there's no English on the recordings themselves.
None at all.
That sounds like true immersion, but I imagine it takes incredible self-discipline. If you're just sitting there in a silent phase, absorbing, how do you not just burn out or feel like you're getting nowhere?
That's the trade-off, isn't it? Assimil's whole idea is you build this deep kind of intuitive knowledge through just sheer repetition. The book gives you the transcript, a literal translation even, but you're not supposed to speak,
Not until you feel ready.
which could be 50 lessons in. The learning is deep, for sure, but the motivation required is just as high. It takes a certain kind of person, someone who's disciplined and okay with delaying that gratification.
Okay, so let's contrast that with the other side. The program's built for immediate confidence. Pimsleur and Michel Thomas.
Yeah, these are for the student who cares more about output than passive knowledge. Pimsleur is famous for being, and this is a quote, easy as pie.
And great for getting the accent.
It forces you into these simple conversations right from the start. But you look at the critiques and you see this pattern. After dozens and dozens of hours of recordings, you actually learn very little.
Very little vocabulary and almost nothing for reading or writing.
Exactly. It's great for training your ear and your mouth, but the structure just isn't there.
And then there's Michel Thomas, which has this completely unique approach.
Huh.
I mean, he got famous teaching celebrities, right? His method is all about avoiding written work.
Right, no revision. And the audio is fascinating because it's him teaching two other students. One gets it quickly, one not so much.
And you, the listener, you're naturally trying to be the quick one.
That's the genius of it, the social dynamic. The whole point of Thomas is to give you that psychological confidence to just cope, to talk. His famous advice was, if you get stuck, just say the English word with the French accent.
And you'll probably be understood. It just lowers that barrier to speaking.
It does. But that confidence definitely comes at a structural cost.
I was going to say, there must be a catch.
Oh, absolutely. The sources confirm it gives you, and I'm quoting here, limited scope for further learning beyond conversational ability. You get really confident in the present tense, but you haven't built a foundation to handle, complex grammar.
Okay, so the big takeaway on methods is a clear choice for you, the learner. A Assimil for deep structure if you have the discipline, or Pimsleur and Michel Thomas if that early speaking confidence is everything.
Exactly. But you have to know you'll need to add in a grammar book later. And no matter which of those paths you pick, this next part is mandatory. Mastering the mechanics. This is where so many self-learners get stuck.
All right, let's dive into these pronunciation secrets. The sources just hammer this one point home again and again. Intensive listening. We're not talking once or twice. We mean 20, 30, maybe even 40 times. The same bed of audio.
I know it sounds like a lot, but there's a good reason. The sounds you're trying to make, They just don't exist in English. Your brain literally has to build new neural pathways to even tell the difference.
So until you can hear the difference between the 4 French nasal vowels, for instance, your mouth physically can't make them.
You got it. You have to train the ear first, always.
Okay, so once the ear is ready, let's tackle that critical trio of sounds, starting with those nasal vowels.
Yeah, this is a classic. We tend to simplify them, but being able to distinguish the sound in, say, vin, wine, from 100, from my, is essential.
And what about the 4th one? The sound in un.
That one's actually declining in modern French, but the other 3 are critical. I mean, if you mistake vent for vent, wind, you've just changed the whole meaning of what you're saying.
So the practical hack here is, what? Just record yourself reading them aloud.
Record yourself, listen back, exaggerate the sounds, focus on those minimal pairs. Next up is the guttural R. You can get by with a soft English R, but
But it's not the French sound, is it?
not at all. To get that native sound, you really have to practice making a friction sound deep in your throat. The guides describe it as almost gargling. It's a muscle, and it's way further back than any sound we make in English.
Okay, and the last one. The infamous French U. The sound in words like tu or ru. It's so frustrating for learners.
The physical hack is everything here. You have to shake your lips into a really tight circle, like you're about to say who.
Okay.
But then, keeping your lips frozen in that position, you try to say the English letter E.
E. Okay, I can feel that. It's a weird combination.
It's totally weird, but that's the sound. It's what gives your French that immediate touch of authenticity.
So beyond single sounds, we have to talk about rhythm and flow.
Yeah.
How to not sound so choppy. Which brings us to liaisons.
Yes, liaisons are non-negotiable. It's where these consonants that are normally silent at the end of a word, they suddenly jump over and attach to the next word if it starts with a vowel.
Like the classic example, ils ont. The ils is silent. But here, it links to ont to make ils ont.
Exactly. You have to master this because native speakers just don't pause between words. The liaisons blur everything together. If you don't understand them, listening comprehension is almost impossible.
And then there's the overall intonation. English goes up and down, we stress certain syllables.
French is, well, it's often described as much more monotonous, smoother. The syllables all carry about the same weight, so you need to imitate the rhythm, not just the sounds.
What about that constant low hum you hear in French?
That's the neutral, the unaccented E. It's pronounced like the E in her, and just scattering that sound through your speech gives it that natural, constant flow. It's like an engine running in the background.
Okay, so let's shift from sounds to, well, to the structural quirks every learner has to face, beyond the simple stuff like la and la.
Let's focus on a really unique one, the French numbering system. This trips up absolutely everyone who hasn't been warned.
Right, we all kind of know about 80 being Coquervin 420s, which is already a bit odd.
It is, but the real challenge is what happens in the 90s.
It gets wild.
It's baffling. You don't just have a word for 90, you have to combine the word for 80 with the teens. So 90 is 90.
42010.
And 99 is 99. 42010 You literally have to do multiplication just to say a number.
And you have to remember that if you go to Belgium or Switzerland, they gave up on that. They used the much simpler septante for 70 and nonante for 90.
Which just goes to show you that even native speakers think counting in 20s is absurd. It's a great example of why you need context, not just rote memorization. And speaking of context, that brings us to a classic, French in Action.
Ah, yes. The 52-episode TV series from Yale. This thing's from the 80s. It has a whole romantic comedy plot line, puppet shows. Why is it still considered a gold standard for contextual learning?
Because it was so deeply committed to immersion, it almost never used translation. It taught you everything through context and repetition, all built around this story of the characters Mireille and Robert.
Right, so you learned that unstylo meant pen? Because you saw Mireille pick up a pen like 50 different times.
Exactly. It taught grammar through osmosis, through situations, not by diagramming sentences on a blackboard. That heavy natural exposure, even if the videos look dated, it's still a superior way to learn for many people.
It's like what Assimil does with a book, but perfected for video.
Precisely.
So, whether you choose a formal course or this kind of immersive path, budget is always a factor. Let's move on to that 5th pillar, the free resource goldmine. We need some strategy here, not just a list of websites.
Okay, let's start with government and academic archives. You can leverage the fact that the old FSI courses, the ones used to train American diplomats.
They're all available online for free download.
Yeah, they are dense, but they're fantastic if you like that idea of the FSI grind without the high price tag.
So what's the strategy for using them? We probably shouldn't start with them.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Use them as a supplement. Say you finished Michel Thomas and you realize, wow, my grammar is weak. The FSI materials give you those intense drills to fill in the gaps. Just remember, they were designed for someone studying 25 hours a week.
A high-intensity tool. Got it. And for grammar books, let's talk about archive.org. How do you find what you need in that huge library?
You have to be specific. Search for things like French Grammar 1950. You'll find free PDF versions of old public domain textbooks. And a lot of people say these older texts are actually better, more concise, less fluff.
Okay. And for audio immersion, there's LibriVox.org, the nonprofit with volunteer read audiobooks. This points to a really powerful zero-cost strategy.
The synchronization strategy, absolutely. You find a French novel as a PDF on archive.org, then you find its matching audiobook on LibriVox.
And you read the text while listening to the audio at the same time.
Exactly. It's the best way to map the written word to the spoken sound, which is a huge puzzle in French with all its silent letters.
Here's another practical tip for you. Commercial publishers can be surprisingly generous.
Yes. Always check the publisher's website for downloads or audio companions. Even if you don't buy the course, things like Rosetta Stone's MP3 companions or the audio for the colloquial series are often free.
And you can use those audio files completely on their own for listening practice.
And finally, don't forget your local library card. That can get you free access to apps like Libby or Overdrive, where you can borrow French ebooks and audiobooks for free.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the big takeaways. A successful learner needs a method. Probably a balance of listening like Assimil and some structural drills from something like FSI.
You have to train your ear to the sounds, master that tricky U, master liaisons, and remember that there are tons of high-quality, free resources out there if you know where to look.
But the biggest barrier, and this is really the tension at the heart of all these methods, it's often psychological. Our sources had this powerful anecdote about a woman who had lived in France for years, married to a Frenchman.
But she refused to speak French.
She wouldn't speak it until she felt she had mastered it.
And she spent decades in paralysis. She knew the grammar, she understood everything, but she would only speak English. It's a kind of communication paralysis. It really shows that the best courses are often the ones that just force you to speak early, perfect or not.
So if the whole point of Michel Thomas is to give you the confidence to speak, even with just a few words, and if confidence is maybe the most important factor for an adult learning a language, then what is the value of striving for mastery over just simple, confident communication?
That's the question, isn't it? Instead of aiming for perfect grammar in 2 years, maybe the better question is, what's the first low-stakes conversation you can have today?
Using those basic phrases.
Yeah. Merci, s'il vous plaît. Au revoir. Just start with confidence and let fluency build around that. That's the real first step.
Until next time, keep digging.